I'm Agnieszka Carpenter, and I'm your host. Welcome to today's BioMe virtual coffee hour. Today's event is themed, and we'll be talking about food and bioscience for two reasons. One, because it's the holidays, so everybody has food on their minds. And two, because we're really interested in how bioscience intersects with other industries, and food and ag is one of them. So today we'll hear from four fantastic speakers, but before we do that, I just wanted to go over some logistics. This event is organized by BioMaine, we're the Bioscience Association of Maine, an industry group devoted to promoting and advancing bioscience in the state of Maine and beyond. And welcome to all of our speakers and all of our guests, whether you're from Maine or outside of Maine, a warm welcome to you. So each speaker will have about 10 minutes to talk about whatever they're doing. We'll have some slides, and then towards the end, we'll have 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. And I highly encourage all of our audience members to put your questions in chat, or you can save a question till the end and raise your virtual hand, and we'll give you an opportunity to ask the question in person. And you can also use the chat just to say hi or to introduce yourself. I wanted to thank our sponsors as well. So these are our annual sponsors for 2022, but right now it's almost December, so we're actually looking for sponsors for 2023. If you're interested in supporting us and helping us put together events such as this one, please contact us after the event. And last but not least, before everybody leaves towards the end, I wanted to say that at the beginning, our next event is on December the 15th, and it's an in-person holiday mixer. First time since 2019, so we're super excited. It's going to take place at North 43 Bistro in South Portland. There's amazing food at that location and lots of parking. So if you haven't registered yet and you would like to join us, please do so sooner than later, because there is a headcount cap, and we're getting lots of registrations. Okay, so without further ado, I wanted to introduce our first speaker, and today it's Dr. Denise Skonberg, a professor of food science at the University of Maine.
All right, let me pull this up so I can see the whole thing. All right, great. Does that look normal to everyone?
Perfect.
Thanks. All right, well, great. Thanks so much for having me for today. As Agnieszka said, my name is Denise Skonberg. I am one of the food science faculty at the University of Maine. And in contrast to some of the other speakers today, I'm actually going to be talking about food science generally, like what is food science, and then a little bit about our program at the University of Maine. And as you can tell from the slide, in addition to being in food science, I'm also affiliated with the Aquaculture Research Institute, the Lobster Institute, and the School of Marine Sciences. So you can tell kind of immediately that my area in food science is actually related to seafood products. So I want to just dive into what is food science. And one of the reasons I like talking about this is because I feel like just in general, food science has a sort of a challenge with a lot of people not knowing exactly what it is. So a lot of times people think it's nutrition, or sometimes they think it's culinary sciences, but it's not actually either one of those, although there's certainly some overlap with those fields. But actually food science can be generally defined as the study of physical, biological, and chemical makeup of the food. And then we also study the causes of food deterioration and the concepts that underlie food processing and food preservation. And I have these two little pictures here just trying to indicate that so food science takes off. It can be, usually it's on the whole continuum, a whole spectrum, from either the farm to the fork, or sometimes, like if you're in seafood science, then we talk a lot of times from the boat to the plate. And so it's all aspects of food along that continuum. And normally it's until it actually, the food reaches the mouth. So once it reaches the mouth and goes into the body, at that point, normally then we're talking about human nutrition as opposed to food science. And then this little graphic on the right is just here to show you all the different fields within food science. So food science is highly integrated. It's got lots of different kinds of sciences that actually are applied to food. So that a big one is chemistry, microbiology, also food engineering is really important, biochemistry. You can see all of these things. And so really, depending on what field you are in food science, you might emphasize one of these areas more than another area. But then they all sort of are integrated into the study of the properties and the chemical makeup of the food, and then the best ways to process and preserve it. So I am going to be talking about our programs, our undergraduate and graduate programs, but I just wanted to give you an idea of where our students end up who study different careers in food science and food technology. They end up as food scientists. A lot of them want to be in the food industry. A lot want to go into the government, like the food and the FDA or the USDA, and then also some go into academia as well. But no matter where they are, wherever they end up, their key role is to ensure the safety, availability, sustainability, and quality of the food products that are offered to consumers. I have R&D scientists at the top. That's usually a lot of when our undergrads come in, they really want to do R&D in the industry. That's where a lot of them want to go. But food microbiology, food safety, quality assurance and quality control, marketing, toxicology, sensory science, those are all things that are all different types of avenues that a lot of our students end up in as well. So just talking a little bit, I just have a couple, like 3 more slides, but a little bit about our program. So food science is part of the Food Science and Human Nutrition program. And here's Hitchner Hall at the University of Maine, where we're located. And we are part of the School of Food and Agriculture. So the School of Food and Agriculture is a combination of food science and human nutrition. It also includes the animal sciences and also plants and soil sciences. So it's everything again, sort of along the ag and food spectrum, all the way again from the food, all the way to the human body, and includes dietetics as well. And so the food science portion is just one section of the whole program. So I'm not sure if you can see these no, it looks like they're chopped off on mine. But so in the food science program, this is just showing some of the stuff that we have going on. And here on the top left is a picture of our food pilot plant. And it's like a pilot scale food processing facility. And it's run by Rob Dumas, who is our innovation and product development coordinator. And so that's a facility that we can use for research, and also that's used for outreach with food businesses across Maine. And also we use it for teaching courses like food engineering or product development for students that are inside of our program. And so that's sort of a little picture in the top left. And we have all different types of pilot scale instrumentation related to processing and preservation of foods. And then all the faculty, we have different laboratories. Like there's just a picture of one of them, but in our laboratories, again, that's where our research is conducted specifically, and whether it's undergraduate or graduate research. Here on the top right is a picture of the commercial kitchen facility. And we don't actually have a lot going on there. A lot of our dietetic students take courses there, but we do expect our students to do a little bit with kitchen scale and learn a little bit about food preparation. So they're required to take courses there. It's also a regulated facility, and small producers can go there to produce like maple syrup or something like that if they don't have a facility like that has been approved by the state of Maine for food production. On the bottom right is just a picture of our sensory testing center, where you can see the individual booths. A lot of times we have different types of consumer testing trials where people come in and try different types of food products and maybe evaluate the quality of the products, or maybe we could do difference testing to see if they can see if differences between new formulations and old formulations. But anyway, the way they're set up is they're all set up with right now they're tablets instead of those kinds of screens. There's a little window where food is sent to the person who's doing the testing, and then their questionnaires are right on the computer ballots. So whatever food products they're receiving, they can answer all the questions right on the computer, and it goes right into our central system. Excuse me. And our food science faculty, most of them are in the School of Food and Agriculture, but I also wanted to clarify that some of our faculty are also cooperative extension faculty. We have food safety faculty. We have cooperative extension faculty whose job it is to work with small businesses to help promote them and help them solve any challenges they have in bringing food products to market. And here, I just want to show everyone an overview of the food science degree programs we have. So we have a Bachelor of Science, it's in Food Science and Human Nutrition. And within that Bachelor of Science degree, there are 3 different concentrations. One is food science, and one is human nutrition, and another one is called food management. We have graduate certificates in food technology and also in nutrition. We have a Master of Science in Food Science and Nutrition, where students typically either focus on food science or some of them focus on human nutrition, depending on what faculty that they're working with. We also have a fairly new online master's program in food science and human nutrition. And because it's online, it is a non-thesis program, but these online programs have gotten more and more popular across the country. So we started offering that several years ago, and it's really, really grown. We also have a PhD in food and nutrition sciences, and that again, students will either pick food science to do research on, or they can work in the nutritional sciences. And on the right here, I just wanted to show you briefly sort of a little bit about our undergraduate curriculum. So you can see that it's sort of broken into the foundational sciences, like all the different chemistries and biology and microbiology, psychology. Those are all the foundational courses that students take their first year or 2 in the program. And then we have all the food science specific courses, which build on those foundational courses. And so those are things like processing and food preparation, food preservation. We have a course just on sensory evaluation. Oh, my food chemistry course, I deleted that, I guess. We have a food chemistry class. And then the product development is the capstone course for our seniors, where they pull everything together their senior year. And then we also require an industry internship for the students, which they normally take between their junior and senior year. And I'll just end by showing some of the research areas that we work in. I just randomly picked these. These are just different titles that I've quickly found of some of the faculty in our department. But the main reason I wanted to show this to you is just so you can see the diversity of the kind of research we do. Like here on the top left, one of our faculty members, Brian Perkins, he works primarily as an analytical food chemist, and he likes working a lot with bioactive compounds, similar to a lot of the students, a lot of the faculty in our programs. Here you can see processing. We have blanching, freezing, fermentation of kelp. We're doing a lot of work in the kelp area, kelp arena right now, just because how important it is in the state of Maine right now. Other areas we can see work with maple syrup. We work a lot with a lot of Maine food products. We do a lot of fermentation work as well. A lot of people in our program are very interested in fermentation. We do a lot of work with trying to improve increase preservation of different types of food products so we can reduce food waste. And we do also quite a bit with sensory evaluation of food products as well. And that's just a smattering. I tried to get one at least from each faculty member in our program. But if anyone had any specific questions about that, I'm happy to address those. And it looks like my time is definitely up, so I'll end with that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Skonberg. That was super informative. I actually, before this coffee hour, did not know that UMaine has this program. So I'm glad we're doing this coffee hour and shedding a light on it. We usually work with UMaine professors from the bioengineering or biology. So it's great to just see that there's such a great science being done in your department. So once again, if anybody has questions, please save them till the end. Now I'm very intrigued by the sous vide lobster. I'm going to have to look into that a little more. Okay, so now it's time for our next speaker, and it's Dr. Aric Rogers from MDI Biological Lab, who will talk to us about caloric reduction, one of my favorite topics.
Here I am. Let's see if I can share. It is shared, right?
It's shared, it's just not in presentation mode yet.
There we go. So yeah, I am Aric Rogers. I'm at the Mount Desert Island Biological Laboratory in the Center for Aging and Regeneration. I'm going to talk about diet and aging. A lot of people wonder, well, what influences how we age, or whether we get different kinds of age-related diseases. And I'm showing 4 different centenarians here to kind of demonstrate a point about genetics. And that is, we have 3 that are doing very healthy things, and we have 1 that's doing something characteristically unhealthy. And we think about a quarter of aging is controlled in the human population, is controlled by genetics, things you directly inherit from your parents. What's underappreciated, though, is that on this nurture side, or the environment side, including things like exercise or diet, that these are ways that we can influence the activity of our own genes. So people aren't so much as frequently born with good or bad genes, it's how you access those genes. You actually have an incredible amount of control. And when it comes to diet, there's a central regulator inside of our cells called mTOR, which stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. And this is something that's directly responds to the nutrients that we get in our diet. And as you can imagine, coordinating this with growth and reproduction is an incredibly important and necessary thing. And so mTOR, based on nutrients, controls how much proteins we make and tends to block turnover of those proteins or recycling of those proteins. The problem is that as we get older and we're done growing and reproducing, TOR kind of becomes overactive, and it can lead to degradation at the molecular level in our DNA, mitochondrial dysfunction, and this leads to cancer, to diseases that we associate with aging, like cancer, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative disease. So the goal in our lab is to understand how the genetic circuits controlling growth can remodel cellular function to increase healthy lifespan. And so one of the most robust environmental interventions in aging that we see across species, from single cell yeast all the way up to mammals, is known as dietary restriction. And this involves a limitation in macronutrients or certain micronutrients, not to the point of malnutrition, but enough to sort of stimulate the normal housekeeping procedures inside of our cells that help keep us healthy and our organ systems functioning well. And in the last 20 to 30 years, so much information has been accumulated on the genetic side of this that we now recognize some of the drugs that already are in existence are impacting these pathways, and in particular, impacting nutrient sensing pathways, including a drug I'll talk a little bit about called rapamycin, which is isolated from a fungus on Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island. To understand how this is working, we use 2 models in the lab. We use an invertebrate model, a microscopic nematode, a small roundworm called C. elegans. And we also use Nothobronchius frazeri, which is the African turquoise killifish. And what makes these organisms sort of stand out is how short-lived they are. C. elegans only lives a few weeks. So if we do anything around TOR or nutrient sensing or protein synthesis that influences aging, we get an answer very quickly in this animal. We also use this fish, which happens to be the shortest lived vertebrate that is bred in captivity. And being a vertebrate is important for research because the organ systems are much more similar to humans. And so although many of the original discoveries in aging and related to TOR have taken place in C. elegans, it's important to understand how much of that translates to higher organisms so that we can ultimately benefit therapeutically from what's learned. And so when it comes to gene activity, that is at the center of health, and in particular, how diet influences our health. So lifestyle is sort of a broad category that includes diet, but we also have gene variants and potential therapeutics. So on the lifestyle side, as I say, diet and exercise are hugely important, as is sleep and reinforcing our daily rhythms. These are all things that have the most profound ability to influence healthy function in our genes. As I say, there are some gene variants out there that can influence how we age. But now, more than ever, now that we have some idea of how healthy aging is influenced, there is an abundance of therapeutics that are coming out, both prescription and non-prescription, that promise to hold the potential promise to extend healthy lifespan. And so I spoke a little bit about rapamycin. This is also known as sirolimus. This is something that obviously requires a prescription. It is known as an immune suppressant, and it was originally used to prevent transplant rejection. So at high levels, this drug helps prevent rejection of tissue transplant, organ transplants. But at lower levels, what we've seen in animal systems, and now there's emerging evidence in humans as well, is that at lower doses, this has the ability to actually rejuvenate the immune system and slow aging. And we think this is acting, because of it targets TOR, it's acting sort of as a mimic of dietary restriction without actually imposing a dietary limitation. One other one I wanted to mention is metformin. This is another one that seems to work a little bit like mimicking some of the effects of dietary restriction. This is something originally approved for diabetes treatment, but we now recognize that this extends healthy lifespans in pretty much all the animals that it's been tested in. There's even some evidence in humans with diabetes that it might be extending their healthful life. And it's fairly low on the side effect scale. So a lot of people are interested in whether or not this can become a preventative for many different aging effects. In fact, this will be the very first drug that is approved for testing by the FDA in what's called the TAME trial, targeting aging with metformin, which is going to involve a multi-year clinical trial to see if taking metformin as you get older, it can help slow the sort of snowball effect of different morbidities that tend to build up and increase the number of pills that we have in our cabinet to deal with various things. And this is something that's led by a scientific director, Nil Barcilai. So this is something that's supposed to get underway very soon. They've been talking about it for a long time, but we're pretty excited to see it start. Another one that sort of has a mechanism that looks like it's might be mimicking some effects, and people have probably seen this over-the-counter marketing for NMN or NR. This is nicotinamide riboside. And this is an NAD precursor, and it sort of mimics a condition inside your cells of what it looks like when you have a low nutrient availability. A lot more testing has to go into that. But right now, people are taking that over the counter, although that may soon change. Not all therapeutics that are targeting aging are drugs. There are some that include things like hyperbaric oxygen or cold therapy. Hyperbaric oxygen is already approved and used by the Mayo Clinic for a number of conditions. And people are now getting very interested in this from an anti-aging perspective. One of the ways dietary restriction works is it's a form of nutrient stress. Not having nutrients is a form of stress. And it's possible that one of the ways hyperbaric oxygen is working is by inducing a small amount of stress that the body can recover from. And I think that takes probably most of my 10 minutes. So I'm happy to stop there, and I could go on for an hour about the pathways involved and the genetics involved, but I know I had a short time. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers. I did not know about any of those drugs. So you definitely opened a new world to us, to some of us at least. And yes, we'll have questions at the end. Once again, I'm just reminding everybody. And now we're changing the subject a little bit. We'll have Dr. Nimesha Ranasinghe from UMaine, who's also the co-founder of FlaVR Labs. And I saw his presentation a while ago at a different event, and my mind was blown. And I thought we have to have him for the coffee hour. So enjoy the 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me for the event. So I'm going to briefly introduce some of our research work at the Multisensory Interactive Media Lab at the University of Maine. So in the lab, we mainly focus on in general, like the human-computer interaction studies, as well as how we can develop new kind of innovative interactions between the technologies and the people. And one of the directions we are looking at is how to use the concepts of like food and flavor and how to digitize them and how to empower people to like enrich or have enriched experiences when they are interacting with the foods, like going beyond the traditional approaches to add more like digital capabilities to human food interactions. So I'm going to emphasize more about those projects we have been doing in the lab, and you will see like a lot of like prototypes and conceptual developments we are doing, and then we bring the human subject evaluations and then test how much the people like and enjoy and experience these kind of interactions and technologies. So it's a mix of virtual reality and augmented reality, as well as food and other multi-sensory interactions we are doing in our daily life. So looking at the current digital media technologies and compare with our real world experiences, as we all experienced last few years due to COVID, in real world experiences and real face-to-face interactions, we have lots more going on in a non-verbal fashion, right? For example, we use our full body to interact with each other. We usually shake hands, we probably pat on the back, and we hug each other. And we also use these multisensory communication channels. It's not necessarily the audio visual information we are transferring when we are interacting face to face, along with expressions, the facial expressions, gestures, and other emotions and other factors. So my research is specifically looking at how to bring these multisensory interactions and communication channels into digital media. For example, think about like the smell and taste, right? Two senses we almost like never heard of in the age of internet-based interactions. And that's the one of the primary focus in my research. And we do research mainly in two directions. Number one is the haptic media. We study, like, for example, in virtual reality, how we can improve the sense of presence or immersion in the virtual reality experience by adding the additional modalities or additional sensory modalities. And you can see in the first prototype I'm going to explain, we add like a temperature or thermal sensations and the wind simulation as well as the smell sensations to enhance the sense of presence in different virtual reality experiences. And on the other hand, lots of my work is focusing on to look at how we can use the sense of flavor as a communication media or like a digital interactive media. And I'm going to explain like few prototypes we have been developing over the last few years, as well as our latest works in the FlaVR Labs company we formed out of the University of Maine and a few years ago. So the first prototype, it's basically, as I mentioned, like you're looking at the haptic media, and we specifically looking at adding the wind sensation. You can see in front of the face, there is a panel which holds two rotatable fans, two tiny fans, and we can simulate the wind conditions or wind patterns based on the visual simulation in front of your face. And then behind the neck, you can see attached a thermal module, and where we can slowly heat and cold behind the neck to simulate like ambient temperature changes or ambient information using these two channels. And you won't be able to see, but we also having this 3D printed back sort of like a pouch behind the neck, which hold like three different sense cartridges. And then we can also, depending on the visual information or depending on the virtual reality experience, we also can release different smells to study like how their immersion, how their sense of presence is different in a virtual reality experience. So this is like one of the very early projects, maybe around 4 or 5 years ago we conducted, and that's where we also interested about like how we can use these extra or external sensory information to augment and virtually create different flavor experiences when we are eating and drinking food and beverages. And moving into the main topic today, the flavor media. One of my interests is to always combine the technology or the digital technology with the eating and dining process, especially looking at how we can augment the flavor experiences. And that's where we came up with this research theme called flavor media, or we also call it the gastronology, like where we combine the gastronomy and technology together to create something digital flavor experiences. And to sort of like summarize most of the work we have been conducted like over the almost 10 years, right? I have been experimenting mainly with electrical stimulation as well as thermal stimulation on the tip of the tongue, where we can apply like a controlled tiny electrical pulses, and we can control the different properties of electrical current, for example, like the frequency, the magnitude of current, the location in the on the tongue, as well as different electrode materials. So don't get panicked like when I say like electrical stimulation, we are using like very tiny electrical pulses, like almost like you don't feel anywhere on your body, or it's like less than 180 microampere. So no harm or no tissue damages will occur by using this electrical stimulation. And we try to combine this electrical stimulation with visual information. For example, like we try to use like LED lights to create different visual information and to augment the flavor, and to do studies like how people like perceive them augmented as augmented flavor experiences. And that's the main theme behind this line of work. And based on these technologies, we develop several eating and drinking cutlery, or utensils. And you can see all of them has like two silver electrodes attached. So the idea is when you are like eating something, or when you are drinking a soup using the spoon, or when you are drinking water from the tumbler, or always these two silver electrodes touch the tip of the tongue, or you touch the rim of the cup or the utensil, and then you will be delivering a virtual layer of saltiness or sourness using the cutleries itself, right? So that's the main theme about behind this virtual reality flavors or food flavor media concept. And we not only focus on like the everyday eating and dining experiences, we also explore like theoretical or more futuristic interactions. For example, we were really interested to explore like how we can teleport a flavor experience, like this, how similar to like sending a text message to a different person. We were trying to explore like how can we send a flavor message or a taste message, and that's where we developed this virtual lemonade prototype, and where we develop like a lemonade sensor as well as a beverage tumbler, where we can capture the pH information of a lemonade and the color of a lemonade using a pH sensor and the RGB color sensor. And then we send or communicate those information to a remote person, which where they have this lemonade or the digital tumbler we developed, and we use simple LED lights to simulate the colors, as well as I explained before, we use the electrical stimulation applied at the rim of the cup, where we can simulate these sensations and experiences in a remote location. And we wanted to explore like how we can expand from the from simulating the basic taste sensations like saltiness and sourness using electrical stimulation towards like simulating flavors. And that's where we started to play with 3 parameters or 3 attributes of a flavor experience: the color, the smell, as well as the taste. And we use the electric taste simulations and RGB LED colors or LED lights to simulate the taste and smell. And also we added the smell release mechanisms, as I mentioned, similar to the VR experience before, to a new prototype where we call it the virtual cocktail or walktail. Where we simulate 3 parameters or 3 attributes of a flavor experience. And now you have a platform using, for example, using a mobile app, you can create your own flavor experiences. And that's gave us lots of room to do some very crazy experiments, like we developed like hot pot flavored milk experiences and tom yum flavored coffee experiences, where like some of these flavor experiences where we like never imagined even to try and create these kind of things in a real environment. But since it's all digital and there is no like anything harmful we are injecting to our body, we could simulate all these experiences and get users feedback. So that's a really powerful platform we had. We also conducted experiments on virtual coffee and simulating the coffee experiences using different smells. I think my time is up, but before we conclude, I just want to introduce one of our first prototypes in the Flavor Labs, where we try to look at the elderly population, and especially older adults who are in or who are on restricted diets due to various health reasons. And we found out like there is a real market requirement to simulate the saltiness and enhance the overall flavor of the food. And that's where we started to develop this salty spoon idea. And we got funding from the UMaine as well as from the National Science Foundation to explore, like, to develop these electrical stimulation utensils. And right now we are going to conduct trial runs in the next few months to study further about the acceptance as well as how to improve the effectiveness of these prototypes. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. And again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Nimesha. Super interesting. And from your last presentation, I remember we had a discussion about people who lost their taste and smell from COVID. So it's very timely. Those types of technologies could really change the future of these individuals. So let's come back with some questions if anybody has them later. And now we have our last presenter today, Deena Sisitsky from PhytoSmart. Deena?
Yes, I am so sorry. I am, here we go. I have to, there we go. I'm so sorry. The icons went away, and I hope you can see it now.
We can see it, but with the icons on the left, but I think it should be okay because we still see your slides.
Okay. I wonder what I apologize for that. I don't know. It was fine before. I apologize.
No problem.
One in every crowd, right? So I am Deena Sisitsky. I am co-founder and CEO of PhytoSmart, and we are an innovative food technology company, and we intend to disrupt the omega-3 nutrition space. And I am not a scientist, but I am a someone who believes in the that we are what we eat, and that nature gives us what we need to be healthy if we pay attention. And I was fascinated by everybody's conversation, and I hope to speak with you all after. So our inaugural product is Zypzyme Omega, and it is different from every omega-3 product that is on the market now, because we protect the algae's natural metabolic and protective enzymes intact. I don't think anyone will disagree with the fact that our collective health is dismal. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I think we got here. Before the 1960s, everything was Betty Crocker made from scratch. And then we entered the space age, and everything became processed and made for convenience. And after decades of eating ultra-processed foods with too much sugar, our collective health suffered. And in 1990 was the first year that life expectancy in America decreased, and it has shown no signs of reversing. And we have created an epidemic of modern lifestyle illnesses that are rising in incidence, such as type 2 diabetes, such as obesity, such as metabolic syndrome. And new research has revealed that many cancers, and I think this goes into what Aric was saying, are metabolically rooted. You know, you have your genetics, and then it's what you do with them. DHA is an essential fatty acid for animals and people, but it is lacking in most modern diets. And neither animals nor people have the ability to synthesize DHA, so it has to come from the food we eat. And I'm going to use an analogy that I've been told by marketers never to use, but to me, DHA is like nature's antifreeze. Because of its extremely low freezing point and stays liquid, it helps to move things through, keep things moving through the body. Currently, DHA is supplied in the form of omega-3 extracted oil. It is a $10 billion market. About 85% is extracted from the fish that eat the algae in the ocean, and about 15% is extracted directly from algae cells. But it is an imperfect solution to providing this critical necessary nutrient. Now, Zypzyme delivers all of the benefits that DHA that you get with extracted oil that you see listed here. But because Zypzyme alone preserves the antioxidative or the superoxide dismutase enzymes, as well as the metabolic, the DHA synthase enzymes. Zypzyme has the ability of going beyond extracted oils, omega-3 oils, to heal and keep metabolisms healthy. So the metabolic enzymes in Zypzyme multiply the amount of DHA in the body and directly convert glucose to healthy fats to stop this accumulation of saturated fats that are the gateway to all of what we now know as modern lifestyle illnesses. And the antioxidative enzymes, they protect against the rapid oxidation that plagues every fish oil and algae oil, every extracted oil. And an article in The Guardian in January of this year caught my eye because it was about the rapid oxidation and toxicity of omega-3 oils. And I found this significant because it crossed and brought into the mainstream media what had been in the scientific community for a number of years. Fish naturally have more EPA than DHA, and however, EPA it's debatable whether it is an essential fatty acid for humans. It does have anti-inflammatory and circulatory benefits, but these are mirrored by DHA, as well as DHA having a much wider breadth of benefits. And fish, because they have more EPA than DHA, and the reason that the omega-3 market includes EPA and DHA is that fish oil producers could not separate the molecules. So they created this omega-3 market to include both EPA and DHA. And the DHA has to be over-concentrated to be par because of this inequality. So when we chose a species to grow, we chose one that only produced DHA. Further, fish oil and algal oil is in triglyceride form, and it has to be converted in the body to be useful. DHA is phospholipid, and it is already in the same format as the tissues in the body and is more highly bioavailable. Now, these next two slides show the benefits of Zypzyme in contrast to fish and algal oil, extracted oils. And you see at the bottom that extracted oils cannot match what Zypzyme's effect on the metabolism. And here is the added value of Zypzyme in contrast to extracted oils. And one thing that I have not talked about is sustainability. I will hear other companies say that they have a sustainable krill oil or a sustainable fish oil. And for reasons I can get into, if anyone wants to hear them, I find that sustainable extracted omega-3 oil is an oxymoron. This is a little glimpse into our technology. We were awarded our patent this year for our sterile plastic algal growth system that we call SPAGs. And in contrast to the traditional way that heterotrophic algae is grown, which is in 100 to 200,000 gallon tanks at hundreds of millions of dollars to put up a plant, we are in direct contrast to that. And we grow in what I call a series of highly engineered plastic bags. And because we are in Maine, we hold up these bags in lobster caging. We have also adapted our technology to species of algae that aren't normally grown by being fed nutrients, and they yield 100 times denser product when adapted to our technology. PhytoSmart is an innovative food technology company, and we have applications planned in every vertical market because every fish, animal, and human needs DHA, and not only is it lacking in modern diets, but the current method of addressing this nutrient is imperfect. And we will change the omega-3 landscape, and we will change the way that this epidemic of modern illnesses are addressed by healing through nutrition. During the pandemic, we did a few preliminary studies, trials to support the enzyme efficacy, and they have formed the basis. We got very good results with a layer hen study as well as a salmon trial, and they have formed the basis for projects that we have going on with NOAA and USDA. We have won awards for being disruptive and innovative. And Zypzyme is a functional food from nature, and it is the future to heal through nutrition with this very important nutrient, because we all are what we eat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Deena. We only have a couple minutes left, which is fine. So if anybody has any questions, can you please leave them in the chat? I got a couple as direct messages. I see one from Dr. Christy Townsend here. So a question to all panelists. As time goes on, there's increasing emphasis on individualized or personalized medicine, and individualized nutrition may end up being part of that. Our genetics, our prior life history may impact how bodies respond to our diet, for example. Does this individualized approach impact any of the work of the panelists today? And if yes, how so? And thank you for the presentations. And whoever would like to take that.
I could speak to that. There's definitely a genetic component, and we know this from just from what we know about genes and people who have certain metabolic disorders that maybe have a genetic basis. But we also know from animal studies that not every animal, even of the same group or the same strain, will respond the same way. One of the characteristics is there's always more variability within a population than between populations. And so some will respond in a very positive way in the aggregate, but you're always going to have some outliers, and it doesn't mean that the nutritional aspect or particular issue that's being dealt with isn't going to apply in some way. It just might need to be different. So dietary restriction, the way in which that is done healthily will vary from person to person, and who's going to receive the greatest benefit will vary depending on their background, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yeah, if I may jump in, I think in my work also, I'm really interested in the personalized aspects, not mainly about the nutrition aspects, but to keep the same enjoyment of the food, and how can we enhance the enjoyment without adding condiments into the food itself, right? So that's why, like, we are looking at the external sensory simulation and stuff to enhance the enjoyment. And on top of that, I think by digitalizing all these personalized experiences, we can also create like a ecosystem where our activity trackers or like health monitors can actively work with these virtual flavors and flavor simulation profiles. And then like, let's say like if someone is having like enough sunshine or enough exercises for today, then we can immediately recommend certain flavors and certain additives for the food, as well as to simulate externally, where we can continue like a more healthier, balanced food eating versus like a exercise balanced lifestyle in the long run. So that's my point of view about this personalized nutrition and medicine, and how our work is connecting all those dots.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Dr. Skonberg, I saw in your presentation, you talked a little bit about sensory testing, or I think that's what it was called, as part of the coursework. So what exactly is it?
Sensory testing or sensory evaluation. So in that class, students learn how to conduct different types of sensory tests. So there's two major categories. One is just setting up like questionnaires and stuff to find out how consumers respond to products. So whether you can see how much they like it, sort of similar to what Nimesha was saying, but this is actually by eating real food. So here they would be served certain kind of food, they would eat the food, and then they would respond about how much they like it. And this was really important for anybody who's doing product development, right? If you're developing new products for people to consume, let's say you're working, you make 10 different formulations, and then you want to see, well, what do people like the best, so that you can then create products that people really, really want to eat, right? So that's one way that you can do sensory evaluation. Another type of sensory evaluation is where you actually have a trained panel, and you have these people who are trained to test or to note different types of notes, for example, like maybe the rancidity development, since we were hearing about fish oils, right? So we know that sometimes a lot of fish oil can go rancid quickly. And so sometimes, even though there are electronic ways to do some testing, the humans who are actually eating the product are actually the best tool if you can train them in the best way to pick up those off notes. So that's another way, is to develop panels for sensory.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Skonberg. So we are running out of time. I see some more questions coming in. This event was recorded, and we will be sharing a copy of it. And also, if anybody is interested in connecting in any of our speakers, or would like to get a copy of their presentation, or contact them for anything, please just email us, and we'll be happy to share their contact information. And with that, once again, I just wanted to mention that our upcoming holiday mixer is on December the 15th at North Bistro, 5 to 7 p.m. in South Portland. So if you're interested in registering, please do so as soon as possible. And I also wanted to thank all of our wonderful speakers today. We certainly learned a lot. It's a little bit some of it was a little bit outside of our regular topics, but it's all about, expanding the horizons and learning new things. So once again, thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to all of our audience members, and hope to see you a lot in 2023. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.